Warmer temperatures in parts of Canada are now prompting warnings about the risk of flooding. The biggest concerns are in the eastern half of the country, where two massive snowstorms are now being followed up by temperatures that are above freezing, melting some of the snow, while in many places, storm drains are still blocked. For more on what to expect and how we can prepare, we are joined from Waterloo by Jason Thistlethwaite, professor at the University of Waterloo School of Environment, Enterprise and Development. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
I'm literally just looking out the window here on Queen Street with a mountain of snow. I mean, there's so much snow. It is starting to melt with these milder temperatures. What do you see as the biggest concern?
The heavy snowpack in urban areas is a real challenge because the infrastructure is quite dense. So you have a lot of homes that are quite close together, so people don't have a lot of places to put the snow. It often ends up in high piles up against people's houses, so that there's a significant risk of basement flooding that can melt and pool and then put pressure on any cracks in your basement. We also have a lot of snow on people's roofs, which leads to ice damming. This is where a chunk of ice and the icicles that you see along the eaves, they block the water that is melting from the snow on the roof from getting into the eaves and into your downspouts. So there's another risk there. There's certainly going to be a lot of insurance claims associated with this particular event. So yeah, we have some urban flood risk, and then potentially later in the spring, some river risk as well.
Yeah, and sadly, you know, I know a number of people who have barns north of the city and were unable to clear the snow off the roof and just destroyed those barns. So let's talk about how people can prepare. We'll get to insurance in just a moment, but in terms of protecting our home in the immediate, what can we do?
This is something that you can help manage. So certainly getting rid of large piles of snow anywhere near your foundation is going to be important. You may have a new modern foundation, but with the amount of water and melt that's happening, it could find a weakness. So get that away. You want to clear out your downspouts. If they're blocked, the snow and water isn't going to be able to find a way into the stormwater system. So you don't want anything backing up. And finally, if you do have a storm drain or do you have a catch basin near your home on your street, try and make sure that is clear. If you've got pooling on your street outside, that's a problem. That water should be going somewhere. So see if you can go out there and try and address it.
Let's talk about insurance now. What type of damage from flooding does insurance cover typically?
The water that is coming in through your basement will be covered. Normally that is covered under sewage policy or groundwater policy for most people, particularly in lower risk areas. I do have a bit of a concern, given some of the flooding that occurred over the summer in Toronto, that if you did have a renewal in between then and now, that your policy may have changed. So I would go have a look at how much coverage you do have for your basement. These policies are getting more restrictive in Canada with the wilder weather lately, so it may not be as much as people think, so that's important to consider.
You talked about last summer's record flooding in southern Ontario. A lot of people still have that in their minds. Can existing infrastructure handle what could be coming?
No. And this is particularly a challenge for stormwater infrastructure. So urban flooding, the type of flooding that occurs that we saw over last summer, is now Canada's most significant climate risk. It is the most costly and common hazard and is the #1 source of property insurance claims in Canada. And it is a real challenge to get that underground infrastructure to a state where it is going to be resilient enough to the future climate. The City of Toronto, though, knows this. It is prioritizing this and has a number of different strategies underway, including a big bypass, giant underground tunnel that is designed to relieve a lot of the sewer discharge and overflow that is happening in that city. It's not going to be completed soon, but it shows the cities are prioritizing this as an issue.
You know what I keep thinking about, Jason, is that, the question of, all this snow is going somewhere. It's being stored somewhere. And then what happens when it starts to melt at that location?
Yeah, you need to get the snow away from the dense areas with a lot of exposure. You need to move it away from places with dense populations, critical infrastructure. The example, of course, is what Montreal does. Montreal has a world-class snow removal system. I'm not saying that Toronto needs to go to the same extent, but what they do is they have snow blowers ready. They are removing banks of snow. They're putting them into the dump trucks, and dump trucks are taking them far outside of the city to an area where they dump them into a giant snow pile that is now quite high and certainly making its waves on the internet. So there are strategies to be able to deal with this. Does Toronto need to go to that extent? Probably not, but this is just another reminder that it's flood season all times of year.
Yeah, it's true. Jason Thistlethwaite, thanks for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.